I have spent years, honestly, but definitely months developing the Notion template that I'm going to share with you today. I've been using Notion for quite advanced task management for the last several years. I am a highly anxious person. I deal with debilitating anxiety on a daily basis, which makes it really difficult for me to work. This system that I have in Notion helps me to focus on what is important and actually get things done. The main system that I follow is the Getting Things Done methodology from the book Getting Things Done by David Allen. I think I've done a pretty good job of implementing that system in Notion. Recently, I've moved from just having the basics of the system in terms of tasks and project management into the higher level structures of areas of focus, goal setting, and kind of a broader vision for life. And that brings in other types of systems. I've talked a lot on this channel about the 12-week year, and I really like the philosophy of the 12-week year when it comes to goal setting. But actually, even with the plan, I often find I don't make as much progress on my goals as I could. The reason for that is it wasn't effectively linked to my main getting things done system on Notion. There wasn't really the functionality to achieve this in Notion before, whereas now that is what I have in this template. I've got a really solid way to implement the 12-week year in a way that's linking up to your actual to-do list and your actual weekly planner, which is to me a dream. The other thing that I've recently started implementing is the para structure of note taking, which is still quite new, but you'll see it later on in the video. Finally, what I really, really wanted from Notion for such a long time was the feeling of bullet journaling and the feeling of daily and weekly and monthly planning and yearly planning that I just feel is a little bit harder to achieve in Notion, to still have that sense of what a bullet journal feels like. Because that's how I originally started making videos on this channel, was all about bullet journaling. I just found that it wasn't very practical to have a non-digital system. Now I feel I have the best of both worlds, because earlier in this year, even, I was working with a physical daily planner because of feeling really overwhelmed. I feel I have that kind of daily planner system in Notion for days where I'm feeling overwhelmed. So it's this really, to me, incredible system that combines these like planning spreads and also incorporate systems like Getting Things Done, the 12-week year, Atomic Habits to a degree, and the para structure. This template required a huge amount more thought and work and hours of time to figure out than in previous templates. If you choose to support my work by getting the template, I will be really grateful to you, because honestly, that will just allow me to keep making videos. I hope to spend a lot more time over the next several months making planning content, because I think that's the content that I always really enjoyed. It's a type of content that a lot of you seem to enjoy. The price that I've established for this product reflects that it took, at least 50, if not 100 hours of work, and I hope that it will save you that amount of time. It also, to keep in mind, saves me a huge amount of time in my week every single week. In my perspective, anything that will save me time is worth something, and I hope that you feel the same way. Obviously, you can choose to spend the time and make this template for yourself, but it did take quite a long time for me to do this. So my suggestion would be get your hands on it at the link below. Okay, so this is what the template will look like when you duplicate it into your own space. I've just got this banner here. I presume most people will fill this in with something of their own. I have a couple of goals in here, but these are just examples that I can show you how things work. And then pretty much everything else has been emptied out. I also have a page in here, which is icons, and that's where I'm going to put like all of the icons that you'll see me going through in my own version of this template. So I'm going to show you what's actually in my version of this. This is my space. This is what I've filled in as my main header. You can see that we have this synced block here. So the red square around this means that it's going to show up in a couple of different pages all in the same way. So you can edit this if you wanted other pages that will be more available to you. Each of these has a little navigation bar. And what's useful about this is that when you are on mobile, you'll be able to just easily get to the part of the page that's relevant, which is especially useful if you've got pages that have lots of different sections. I'm not going to go through this main page right now. What I'd like to do is go through each of the planner spreads first. That will allow me to explain a lot of the different databases that we have going on in this template. And then if there's anything else that I feel I need to talk about, I will, but then I'll come back and I'll explain what these different homepage sections are for, as well as the archive here. You'll also see a lot of these little buttons around. These are making use of two features that are in Notion that weren't the last time I was making templates, one being buttons, but the other being forms. So for example, if you were on the go and you wanted to take a quick note or a quick task, this will open up a form which will ask you to fill in details about the task that you are involved with. Let's get straight into the yearly planning template. I have this section here for the theme of the year. This is where we have the button to add a new year. So this will add a new year into this reflection section. Having the forms where you can fill in these reflections. Firstly, it's nice because you can ask these questions and just respond to them in text, which I think is really nice. But having them in a database means that over several years, you can reflect back on different months and weeks and quarters and things like that. So I have a similar thing for each time of year, quarter, monthly, weekly, because obviously I've only just been working on this template at the moment. I haven't filled these out myself, but that will be my plan to fill them out more regularly. And that means you can kind of look back on different months of the year and see what all of your different achievements and challenges and things like that were, which I really like. Then we have this section, which is the year at a glance. And I love this. This is date agnostic. So whenever you're adding new months, you will put in the date of the month. But after that, this little calendar will fill in automatically because it's a formula that I created by myself and I'm really proud of. That will automatically make this little formatted mini calendar. And what I love about this is that it's very reminiscent of bullet journaling. This one is filtered to be the current year. So as we get into January, you can start to add in new months and so on and so forth. But these little calendars will update. Over here as well is similar to kind of bullet journaling year at a glance spreads where you can see the whole year in front of you and then you can see all of the different dates. I have these filtered based on year. So obviously I haven't filled this out for 2024 because it wasn't ready. But what I like about this is that you can fill in the values and then you can actually link something to them. So for example, here, if I had a project that was related to exams, I could add in a link to that specific project. So I'll try and find that project. Let's just call it this. Okay, so now I've got this link to this project. So if I'm actually thinking about this at this time of year, this will open up the relevant document, which I think is pretty cool. Love this. These are just technically different months, these little spreads. So you'll see these in our monthly reviews, but each of these will be its own page. And then if you want to fill in like the monthly journaling will be over here. The monthly review will be a specific template for filling out a different review, but I'll come back to those. So that's our year at a glance. And then we get down into the vision board area. I have mine organized by area of life. So all of my different life areas are over here. We can see the different areas of focus within here. I'll talk about these in more detail shortly. But I love how this looks. Vision board for me is a new concept. I don't really do them and I need to fill this out. I have in here some like women and people that I really want to work with in the acting space. A couple of other things regards to travel and health and stuff like that. Over here, we have our different reviews. So we have quarters, we have months, we have weeks, and we have years, which at the moment I just have 2024. And as you go and add new values in here, they'll show up, but these are currently all filtered to be the current year. And you can see that for each of these, we have their own kind of review templates. The way that I have the vision database organized, you'll see here, we have whether or not it was achieved, whether or not it's archived. You might put something on your vision board and then some other time realize that it's actually not that relevant to you. It has a name, it has a photo, an area of focus or an area of life, when it was created, which is automatically going to be updated. And then you can put in the date achieved. I'm going to add an automation, which is when achieved is checked, then we're going to set the date achieved to the date triggered. So now you'll see if I mark this as achieved, let's say I'll mark this one as achieved, the date here will update all by itself in a second, hopefully. There you go. So the date now has been set. If I unclick this, the date should be cleared. Great. Okay, so areas of life will be pretty standard. The broad categories will be pretty much similar for most people. I have learning/growth, business, which for some people, they will run a business. For other people, it might be work. Same way I have brand and research. These could all fall under work, but for me, it makes more sense to have these as separate areas of life. Within relationships, I have family, pets, friends, romance, joy and creativity. That's an area of life that's focused on all things fun. We have the category of home, health and well-being, finances. Pretty much all of these will be relevant to most people. It's just, I suppose, business, brand, and research will be the ones that might be variable for you. Within these, then, you can see we have different areas of focus. So these are going to be specific things that are of interest within this specific area. For example, I already talked about the relationships, joy and creativity. These are either classes I'm working on or skills that I'm working on. Within the getting things done framework, the idea of like a vision for your life will be quite top level, and goals will kind of be the next level below that, and then areas, the space below that. Okay, in this area as well, we have an overview of your values. So this is a good place to consider just filling these in so that you can reflect back, and also to reflect back on life lately to see how you've been getting on with these values. Are you doing well? Are you living your life in line with your values? And just going to the actual source databases for this. In the value section, you can see that we have this link here, which allows you to go to this site where you can find your own personal values. Coming back to this year, though, the other thing that we have in here is our yearly goals. So I didn't have any yearly goals, so this area is empty for me, but these will be where we store our yearly goals. Let's just put in one, for example. Release Notion templates. That could be a yearly goal, but it could also be a quarterly goal, since I do have that as a quarterly goal. With regards to this yearly section, the last thing that I just want to go through is the yearly review template. So when we are finished for the year, we may want to review back on the year. So I already mentioned that this is going to allow us to fill in that reflection. It's also then going to add a new page into this database. And with these, we can also generate a yearly review. I have similar reviews for different time periods of the year, and kind of extended yearly reflection in here. If you want, there's a lot of extra questions in there that you could fill out. We have a goals review, which are looking at the different goals that were achieved at different times of the year or that were planned for different times of the year. We have projects review. So these are all the projects completed at different stages of the year. And it's only going to have like a certain number that will be shown, but you can load the rest of them if there are more. If there was any areas of life archived, this is going to show up here. So I finished lecturing this year, so that area of life is now archived. A nice way to look back on things that you are no longer doing. Any experiences that you had will be stored under a specific notes type called things to check out, which we'll come back to when we talk about notes. And then general like reference notes that have been created here, we have them grouped by month as well. And any sessions for different areas of life that have been logged, you'll see those when we go through the different templates for areas of focus and things like that. Then we can just review the year at a glance. So the one thing to keep in mind is that if you wanted to actually have these records for different years, you'd want to just go back into each of these and filter those to, rather than say this year, you would explicitly put the dates as January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2024, and so on and so forth. So you would do that at the end of each of these reviews. So this is kind of something that you'll see again and again cropping up, is that for the actual reviews, you'll want to update these dates. Whereas other than that, if we're just looking at this year, this quarter, those will be kind of date agnostic to a degree. So we're now going to move on and talk about this quarter. which is really where some of the magic happens. Okay. So firstly, we have this view of the year at a glance page with each quarter of the year, just selecting the columns that are going to be relevant to that quarter. We're in Q4, so that's the one that we're looking at right now. And this is filtered to just be for the current year. So you can see that the filter has current year checked. This is going to be updated based on this formula that when you have the year as the same value as the current year, it will automatically update. We can see our different reviews. So I'll come back and talk about the quarterly review at the end of this page, but we can also just see this overview of the months of the year for this particular quarter and for the weeks that are relevant for this particular quarter as well. And I just love how these look. They make me so happy. If we want to do our quarterly review, there will be this form that opens up, but it's nice again to just see these different things. And then up near the top of this section, we have our goal progress for our different goals. So the one thing that is somewhat manual when it comes to the 12-week year goal setting process, I've managed to link up everything like pretty well. I'm pretty happy with it. The one thing that didn't come fully together is the goal scorecard. So each goal has its own scorecard and you'll just have to put this into this area. So for example, I've left off one of my goals here. So I'm going to create this new view and you can see how I do that. And I'm going to create an empty view and then I'm going to link to a specific goal scorecard. So here I'm going to link to my research goal scorecard. Let's do that. And that'll show us it as we would like it to come up. I suppose since these are always going to need to be changed, this can be the research scorecard. And then you can just put a flag up there of any description. You'll see that when we get into the specific goals, you'll see how these get generated. But the one manual thing you'll need to do is just actually put those in there. And there's a couple other places where you'd be tracking your progress that you'll see when we get into those. To create these kind of goals, we have different areas of reflection. So we have your vision, which is important to be reviewing on a regular basis to see, firstly, did you achieve any of the things that are part of your vision? But also, are there things that we could be getting closer to based on the next 12 weeks? In terms of values, then same thing. You want to be evaluating these on a regular basis, seeing, are you living in line with your values? Can we get closer to a life that is in line with our values? And I like to also take a look at the different areas of life and do a little reflection on the current state and the goal state at each of these periods. And then eventually that leads to goals. So these are our quarterly goals. They will either be current or start date being empty. So if we're adding a new one here, the current won't update until we have a start date inputted there. Or if it's starting like really soon. So if you were planning these 2 weeks in advance. So these are my current 12-week goals. And we have a template in here for when you're setting a specific goal, which is the 12-week goal template here. So if, for example, we wanted to add a new one, something that will be quite important, let's go ahead and create a new goal together. One thing that's really important to input when we're putting these in is going to be the start date, because if we don't have a start date for the goal, the specific 12-week plan that gets created will not have any relevant dates. So I'm going to go ahead and pop in the start date as, we'll make this a New Year's goal. So we're going to start it on the 6th of January. And then you can see this is now one of those scorecards that you can then link to when you're looking at those reviews. So I would change this to, let's call this save 10,000. And then this could be our saving goal weekly scorecard. Once we have our goal set up, so let's now link the specific goal that we need to here. So this will give us one of the options for goals that we can put in. And if I select that down in all of these areas here, we now have these updated dates, which will be for each and every week. And the way that you would use this scorecard is you can evaluate on each week what proportion of your habits you completed, what proportion of your tasks you completed, and what proportion of your projects you completed. So let's say, for example, on week 1, we did 75% of our habits, we did 50% of our tasks, and we did, let's say, 30% of our projects. This will then give us an overall score of the week of 52. And then you can fill in these values here. You can add as many of these as you want, but typically we'll have some other metrics that we will kind of score each week. So let's say we could call this amount saved. Then we could have like, week 1, maybe we save 1,000, week 2, 500, week 3, 1,500. I don't know where I think I'm getting that kind of money to be saving, but that's something that you can fill in each week. At the end of the 12 weeks, then you'll have these different things that you can evaluate on. And if you wanted to, so we've got average values down here, depending on the metric, like for this one, for example, the best thing would be to sum up these for something like, let's say this was, a subscriber count, then you might be looking at the maximum value, for example, because you'd want to see what the current max subscribers gained maybe is or something like that, or average subscribers gained. I'm just going to go ahead and open this into a full page so that we can take a closer look at the rest of this goal template. We have these different areas of focus that we can add to our projects or our goals in this case. We'll see that we will end up having linked projects and linked habits. But for now, let's just add this to our finances areas of focus. And then that's going to be a goal that's specifically relevant there. We now want to go and set up our actual 12-week plan. So we know what metrics we're looking at. We're going to look at amount saved. Maybe we'll look at spending as well. And then we might have different projects and tasks that we need to do. So let's look at projects first of all, because these will be larger activities that we need to think about. So in week 1, there's usually some kind of setup projects that need to happen. So maybe this will mean that we need to set up a bank account. That is something that we can then move to a given week. So let's say that's going to happen in week 1. And then what other projects would we need to do as part of this? I suppose we would need to generate new revenue sorts, and we could move that then to one of our weeks as well. And you'll see that when we move these to a given week, we have these planned dates that get updated, and that's based on automations. There's some wonderful automations that have come into Notion. This is a really handy one. So let's say this is something that's going to take several weeks. So we're going to work on it for these several weeks. We'll see the automations will be a little bit slow because I'm recording at the same time, but you can see that these dates are now going to be spanning over several weeks, which is great. And let's say they might be the only projects that we have, but let's say then we want to add some tasks to those projects. So I'm going to go in here to our project and I'm going to add some tasks. So I'll add go to bank, for example. And this is going to just create a new task in there. We can now see that when I add a new task, we can now see that I've got a proportion of my project or completion rate there because I now have a certain number of tasks that need to be completed. And when we go to tasks, this will automatically be added to the same week as the project that was planned. You could also add standalone tasks in here, but most of the tasks I find will be related to some form of project. Over here, then we have habits. So these are going to be different habits that we want to think about for every single week for this goal. So let's say that we have some rules for ourselves in terms of saving. Let's just call this low spend. And it's a habit that we need to do 7 times a week. And we want to be able to check these off. So I have different days down as different dice here or versions of a die. So Monday is 1, Saturday is 6, and then Sunday is just 0. We might want to do this same habit every week, or maybe we have a couple of habits that we want to do every week. So let's say we'll call it low spend and we'll call it make budget. Maybe we're going to make a budget once a week. That's going to be a repeating habit every week. And both of these you want to do every week. So we could duplicate these and then drop them down to a given week. And then we could just keep doing that. Okay, and you can see that when we do this, again, the week start date is going to automatically be updated based on the week of our goal. And this is based on what date our goal starts on. So putting the start date in for our goal is really important because when we go and look at what's actually going on in a given week, it'll be relevant to these specific dates. Cool. So that is our goal setting page. And then the kind of benefit of these is when we go into our quarterly page, we'll have all of these already in there for us. So the goal that I just showed is obviously a future goal, so it won't appear here, but you'll see what it looks like for all of the goals that I actually am working on right now. So this is our overall goals. And then here's my overall 12-week plan. All of my projects will appear here, and any of the ones that haven't been assigned to a specific week will remain up here. We can see which ones are involved in different goals. So you'll see that in the 12-week plan, we have our habits. I only set up one habit for this, but you can see how it works. If we have, the frequency down is 3 times a week, we'll get this score for each one. And this is something that we can then feed forward into our scores. We also have projects. All of our projects that don't have any week assigned will appear here. And we can drag them down, and you can see as we go along, we get down to a certain week, and then we are in the area where we have projects not quite completed. And then we also have the same thing for any of our tasks that have specific dates associated based on the plan. So all of these will appear in this area. So this is what the quarterly plan looks like. When we then go into a given quarter and we want to review this quarter, so this is the current quarter that we're in, we also have a quarterly review template. So let's take a quick look at what that looks like. So in our template, we have again our navigation, and then we have just a review of the 12-week plan. So these are all going to be dated. So again, these reviews will require you to update the dates depending on what quarter you're actually in, so that you can properly review what it is that you were working on. And then down here, we have our scorecard for our different goals. Again, you would have to update these to be the specific databases that you want. So for example, if you were changing this up, you could just change the source to be the actual database that you want to in each of these. So a little bit of manual effort required for the reviews, but I do think they're worthwhile if you want to be able to really look back at times appropriately. Also, with these layouts that we have, you can see if you want to change these layouts, that can be done here. But you'll also see if you click on details, this is where all of your kind of journaling stuff would be stored, so that you just don't have to see them all down in one big line on this template. Okay, moving on to the monthly planning template. The monthly planning template, I will say, is not super detailed. I don't tend to do a huge amount in terms of monthly planning. You can see we have these different views of the different months based on the year at a glance that we saw in the yearly planner. We also have the different monthly reviews. So I'll go through the monthly review template, but there's also this questionnaire as per every month to be able to fill out your reviews or your reflections. We have just a view of any current monthly goals, 12-week goals, and your vision, just so that we can be staying up to date with each of these. We then have this kind of calendar, which is really the kind of end of what we look at for this month. So I have appointments, which you can see I don't have any coming up. Projects, these are based on planned date. So what projects I'm meant to be working on this week and what ones I hope to get finished this week. Tasks due, which you can see there are a lot due and they're all done. Tasks completed, which you will see today, no tasks completed. And then daily habits as well, which we'll come to when we look at our overall daily planner. But these would also contain like daily journals that might be worth taking a look at every once in a while. But typically what I'll do is if I have anything in for one of these dates, I'll just create an appointment. So I'll usually do my appointment planning on a monthly basis. So I'll populate this calendar here based on whatever is coming up in here, or whatever is in my normal calendar, I'll just fill in over there. And then down here, we have just a review of different weeks. So we can look back at the month and see how it went. We have a review of the weekly habits, which are dated for the specific month. And then we could also put in our scorecards here if we wanted to look at the specific weeks for the given month. I only have them in for one just to show as an example. Great. In terms of the monthly review template, let's take a quick look. So let's go for November and let's fill in the monthly review. Great. So you can see again, our kind of journaling stuff would show up over there, but we don't need to see that. Again, we just have a view of the calendar where you can see all of the different things completed. You could filter these for the specific month. That would be something that you'd need to do for this review. And same way here, these are going to be filtered based on the current month, but you'll need to update the specific date if you want to be able to review back on these. I also like to do a review of my areas of focus at this time. This is a good time to think about any um, extra areas of focus or any areas that you want to work on over the next couple of months. And this is usually where I'll kind of add in some extra projects that I want to for different areas of focus. What I will actually do here, rather than really adding in based on here, I'll take a look at the specific area of focus. So let's say, for example, what would I be interested in? Podcast, let's say. Fun one. Um, if I haven't spent any time on this yet, you'll see that it's quite empty. We have these different values here that I could fill in, but I'll want to use one of these templates. So I can click on areas of focus because that's what this one is. It's not a bigger life area because the bigger life area is brand, but area of focus within that is podcast. So what I would do is I would start to do a bit of a brainstorm about this area of focus. If I have a vision kind of element that I want to add, I could do that here. And I quite like that I have the option to do that. So I'd add in some new things that I want to think about for this particular goal. And then we could also add in various projects to this area of focus. And when we add in a project, we'll have the default template be added. So an area of focus is typically associated with some sort of projects or different notes or time-based activities. So a project here could be maybe to buy equipment for my podcast that I don't have, buy microphone, and then I would also need to buy. So this is the kind of thing that I would do on a monthly basis. Just review these different areas of focus, think about what ones I want to work on, think about projects that are related to this, and start to kind of work through some of these. So within this template, you can see there's kind of different areas. So if it has any sub areas, you'll see those here. If there's any related notes or notes to broader related areas, those will appear here. And then if there's any specific appointments related to this or any sections that we want to log. So for example, in some of my more hobbies related goals, you'll see that I might want to put in like practice time. So these are automatically set up so that when you start a practice session, it's going to add a start date and add an end date, and then it'll automatically calculate time spent. And obviously I didn't spend any time on that one. Let's go for the weekly planning next. And I think I need to turn a light on because I'm starting to get really pixelated here. I'm not sure if that achieved a huge amount, but hopefully it will make a slight difference. Cool. So weekly planning. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. This is one of my favorite spreads of the whole template. We have a calendar view. We have the weeks leading up to this time of year. For the particular month, we have our goals. We could put our scorecards in. I haven't done that for all of my goals, but we have the specific goals and the progress so that we are always reminded of these goals. We have our habits, which these will be feeded over automatically from our 12-week plan. But if you had any other habits that you wanted to track on a given week, you could do so just by adding in a habit. And this will fill in the start date as the date added. But it means that when we're looking at these goals or these habits, you can see them at different times of year, even if they weren't related to a specific goal. So let's say we're working on our flossing. That could be a habit that we add in for the week. We can also take a look at last week. So, typically if you were tracking these things over the weekend, you might not be checking in on your Notion every single day. A little bit iffy sometimes with specifically when those come across, but you can just make sure that you're editing for the right week there anyways. Great. So then we have this schedule page, which is a database, but the point of it is that our schedule should be loosely the same each week, but you can still update this on a weekly basis. So I have in here an area that you can add in like typical activities with links. So for example, here I have quick tasks, and this will bring me to a specific page that has a view of my task list where it's all the quick tasks. So then I can just go in and work on those for a little bit. And I find that really useful. So you could also link to different project pages or to different areas of life. And that means that you'll have this really useful linked kind of schedule. That's what we have here for schedule. And then this area here is for our project and task management for the week. So we have projects due, which has planned date for this kind of next couple of weeks, or ones that have been planned for before and aren't completed. We have tasks due, which is pretty similar. And then we have an area where we can organize our tasks by day. So this allows us to take any tasks and then move them on to given days. So let's maybe add this onto Tuesday just to give us something to do. And then you'll see that the total time for different days is going to be updated based on the time of these tasks. So that's the value that's put up here. It's the estimated time of the different tasks. And when we go into our daily planning, you'll see that we actually can then see different tasks for different days based on ones that have been planned here. We also have our waiting for list. Any of the tasks that are status waiting for, or if we have a project that is paused, those will appear in here. And we can also just update these as we're going along to maybe we realize they're no longer waiting for, and we can move those over. So our waiting for list basically is any of the tasks that we can't make action on at the moment because we're waiting for something else to happen, whether that's someone to send us something or we need, some other conditions before we can actually make progress towards these. Let's take a quick look at our weekly review. We have the button here to go through our reflection, but then let's just take a look at what the weekly review template looks like as well. So we're going to click on weekly review. So what we want to do is review our tasks, review our projects, review our habits, and review our completed tasks and projects. And then we can also drag in our goals progress based on the specific week and the specific goals that we're working on. So you can see that we have these two process sections. This will be our area to process tasks. So if we haven't finished filling in the details, so we need to add our next action, our context, our priority, and our estimated time to our tasks. This is where we do that. Part of the getting things done system is that we want to organize our tasks. We want to make sure that we can easily find the right task to work on at the right time. So the task here will be to search online for appropriate headphone. The context for this will be, in my case, online browsing. The priority we'll say is low priority, and then the estimated time I'll say 5 minutes. And once I finish processing that task, you can see it deletes from this particular view, and it's then going to end up on my to-do list. So my to-do list in this instance is going to be organized by context. This will include all of the different contexts that I personally work in. So these will be all of the tasks that are not done, cancelled, or waiting for. And you'll see these are all the tasks that I have going at the moment. I'll also have just different views where I can look at all of my important tasks, which at the moment I have none, thankfully. I've done all my important tasks. Anything that's coming up soon, as well as any tasks that are quick. These will be all my tasks that take 5 minutes or less. We then have the same kind of review to take place for our projects. Unprocessed projects means they either don't have any tasks remaining or they haven't been assigned an area of focus. But once we do that kind of processing, we'll see that we end up losing these. So let's say we'll pop our area of focus in for this one as savings. And now that is gone off our projects list. We also have a list of our current projects. So these are all of the in progress and not started projects that we have. We have a calendar of all of our planned projects. And then we have a paused section. So these are where we can review our projects that we can't really make any further action on them until further things happen. And it's worthwhile taking a look at these and seeing if we can move any of these back into in progress. And we have a similar one. The waiting for list also appears on the tasks view over there for the waiting for task. What else do we have going on? We have our habits review for the current week. And then we have a review of the tasks or projects completed on this week. So since I finished this project this week, this one will be added down there. And we can also, as I said, transfer over our goals progress too. Okay, finally, we are on to the last planner spread, which is the daily planner. Again, I really like this area. We have our month, we have our week that we're in, and then we have just a reminder of our goals. We have a daily check-in, which I've set up these habits, which are part of my ideal day. So when it comes to habits, we already have the weekly habits, which I think should be left for ones that are a bit more changeable and that don't happen every day. Whereas what I've put in here is habits that I want to do every day and that I don't really see changing. So in here, I've got those habits. The idea is that this is going to be like your ideal day. So if you achieve all those on your given day, then you will reach 100%. And then there's just a little area to fill in the gratitude, self-care, priority, and highlights for the day, which I really like. You can also reflect on yesterday because I think like some of these I would fill in for the day before. Same with some of those habits. I would usually fill them in for the day before. And then we can look back at the week and see how well we're doing. Love it. We then have the to-do list and the schedule. So this schedule is a formula. So it's worked out as working out which day it is and then showing the right column. Whereas if you want to edit one of those days, you'll have to look at a specific day. So if today was Tuesday, we would then go into Tuesday and just edit those things based on that. And same way we could take a look at tomorrow to see what we have coming up. Same way for these planned tasks, these are the ones that you put in for the specific day of the week. So the ones that I added on to Tuesday, we can now see those here. But we can also take a look at all of our tasks organized by context. I like to use these kind of board views because on your phone, they're a lot easier to work with and you can just easily scroll through each of these. And I have them then, organized by context, organized by whether or not they are important. And you can see again, I don't have any important tasks, quick tasks, ones that are coming up soon, which I don't really have any for, and then ones that are waiting for at the moment as well. That is kind of it for these different spreads. This is the one that I would be most likely to use on mobile. And again, because we've got this navigation section, you can just go straight to the to-do list. What else do I want to talk about? Basically, not a lot. We've got a couple of automations on these. So we have automated time tracking for different tasks. So if, for example, this task here, which is document, like creating a document, if I edit this task to move it to in progress, we're now going to have a start time column that's going to get updated. And if I give it like a second and then I move it to done, so you can see this start time has just been added and it shows up here once that's done. And then let's see, we'll give it a little second. Oh yeah, it's been a minute now. So then we can move it to done. Yes. So then we have the completion date pops up and then the time taken also pops up. So this is really useful if you're trying to determine how long different tasks are taking. And I don't think I actually changed anything there. So we can get out of there. We have projects and tasks related. So if you start a task related to a given project, then that is automatically going to mean that the project is now started. And same way, if you finish a project, it's automatically going to finish all the tasks that are related to that project. So it's going to automatically fill those in. When you set a status to done, then automatically that's going to, fill in the finish time. And then we're also filling in information from the project. So if you've added a project which have goals or weeks or area of focus, that's all going to move over to the specific task once you've added a project. And that is the bonus of automations. I don't think there's anything else I need to talk about in regards to tasks, but we do have some of these different views available here to take a look at. I'll go back through my different databases now and just see if there's anything else I want to talk about. So in our projects, we have a couple of automations as well. So filling in things from the 12-week year, completing the tasks based on a project or canceling tasks based on a project. That's all for the moment. There is a project template, which you'll see when we open up a project, it's automatically going to turn into one of these templates. I think we already sort of had a quick look at this, but this is what the project looks like. Details you can put in about the project, any notes, any tasks we can add in here. So we don't have any tasks for this particular project yet, but we could add those in here. And the other thing that I like about this view is that we have this timesheet element. So what I find is when I'm doing project work, for example, research work, it can be kind of frustrating because you might have certain tasks that take a really long time and it feels like you're not really getting anything done. Whereas what I like is that I can press clock in and then I can press clock out after a certain amount of time and it will kind of generate this nice session that I've worked on and that makes me feel a bit more productive. And then back to databases. I've basically talked about all of the templates that are in there. So the last template to discuss will be part of the areas of focus one. There's a few different templates, basically one for whether it's a resource, one for areas of focus and one for areas of life. And they're fairly similar. So I'll go through what it looks like in one of the areas of life. So this one here, we've got research as an area of life, and we've got any vision items related to this area, which we don't have any. We have goals related to this area. So here we have finish research responsibilities. We have projects related to this area of life, and then we would also have sub areas if there were any, and resources if there were any. And we have our notes, our sessions, pretty similar to the projects. And again, it's just nice to have these kind of spaces that you can do a little bit more work for your specific areas of life or specific projects. One thing that I'm planning to do over time is to customize some of these a little bit more and then maybe just offer these to you through email or something like that to show you my updated versions of like, a travel planner or financial planner that are just kind of variations of these same pages. And I hope that you'll find it useful. The last thing to just kind of go through now will be the homepage. This navigation page, as I mentioned, we have the archive and we have the icons. I don't have the icons in my own one because I'm just using my own icons. We have this view of our goals, our values, and our vision. We have these quick actions, which I mentioned already. And then we have these views of the process to be processed tasks, kind of like in the weekly review. This is essentially what shows up here. So for my own template, we can see that I have currently got some unprocessed tasks because especially the ones that I've added, these will be considered unprocessed so far, some unprocessed projects. And then you'll see all of my notes. So some of them need to be processed. And then we can also just see any kind of recent notes that I will have taken as well. We have my different areas of focus and areas of life. And each of these, again, are just like nice little spaces that you can hang out in and kind of generate some projects and generate some goals for within each of these, which I think is really nice. And then we have some resources as well, which so far I've just been starting to move some of my notes over into this because this will be part of the specific note taking system that's part of the second brain. So it's the para structure, which is projects, areas and resources, and then archives. The idea being that you'll have projects that you're working on and you might have notes related to those projects. You'll also have like areas of your life that you might have specific notes for, and then resources related to those areas that you might have notes for. Further information on this, I would say the best place to check out would be the actual second brain creator, which is Tiago Forte. And then there's also a version of this homepage elements and these kind of templates that come within this. I found based on the setting up a second brain in Notion video that Thomas Frank Explains has made. So I'll have that video linked because this aspect of this template you could set up for yourself. He has a really good video that kind of goes through this. But if you want it to be linked with obviously all the 12-week year goal setting and the getting things done methodology for task management, then obviously that's pretty much all implemented here. Hence the hours and hours of work and the template that is available that I do hope people enjoy. And the final aspect of this will just be the archive, which is where you store any kind of notes or projects or areas of life that just aren't relevant to you anymore. So I don't really have so many because this is a new template for me, but over time, I imagine that there'll be more and more things ending up in here. I think that's everything that I wanted to share in this video. This is obviously going to be a long one because it's just kind of a deep dive into the back end of this template. I really hope that it'll be useful. I love this template. I think it's my proudest achievement. I hope that you enjoy it. Let me know how it goes. I'd be really keen to hear from you.